Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingrass, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat. This is a show that's trying to make the world safe for ADHD. And in addition, probably trying to help folks deal with their own ADHD, their child's ADHD, their spouse's ADHD, all those things. I'm a clinical neuropsychologist in private practice. I work with a lot of ADHD, and I probably about 50-50 kids and adults. So I also coach mostly ADHD entrepreneurs. That is, and it's surprising. There a lot of executives have ADHD. And a huge number of entrepreneurs have ADHD. And as I try to start out with, I made it through a graduate program, an APA certified program in clinical psychology without ever once hearing about ADHD. Not a mention. That was kind of the way things were back in the day. And that's why when our youngest came along and started having some problems, we had a horrible time trying to figure out what was going on. It just took forever, and I was connected with the community, and so the folks who were doing evaluations were the people I knew and worked with. And they, however, were not much help, frankly. But fortunately, now we have had tons of research done. We have bunches of new evaluation techniques. And the word is out that ADHD is a thing. If you pay attention at all, you know it's a legitimate neurologic condition. And there are certain features of it. It's highly heritable. It's a heritability index of 85%. So if you have a child with ADHD, somewhere back there in your family history or your spouse's family history, there's ADHD. Bunches of. And so I wish I'd known that a long time ago, because it would have made Thanksgiving with my relatives much more tolerable. But you go with what you got or what you know at the time. Okay, I was not doing the show last week because we just had barely touched down flying from the West Coast at the normal time I would have presented. So we just thought discretion was the better part of valor, and we wouldn't do the show. But it was a very interesting conference. Not for the reasons I would have predicted. Okay, it was a conference that was basically on entrepreneurship. Starting your own business, doing your own thing, that sort of stuff. As I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of coaching of entrepreneurs, most of whom are ADHD people. And at this particular conference, there were 6 speakers who were all very successful, making millions of dollars, getting interviewed by all the big magazines and big TV shows and all that sort of thing. And guess what? Every one of them had ADHD. Every one of them mentioned in the course of their talk all the problems they had and getting through school and all that sort of thing. Now, I wasn't expecting that, honestly. I mean, I know there's a high overlap between entrepreneurship and ADHD, but 6 of the top players in the whole experts industry, if you will, and they've all got ADHD. Well, I mean, there is a thing about going to these kinds of conferences. Um, Usually they last around 3 days or so, and usually by about the middle of the second day, I'm starting to do a lot of consulting with people about ADHD. Oh, my brother, oh, my sister, oh, my husband, oh, my wife, oh, my, this, that, or the other, oh, my kid, of course. Um, and the research suggests that about 70% of entrepreneurs have ADHD or ADHD-like symptoms. That's just a crib that's used because a lot of people have the symptoms but have never been diagnosed. The interesting thing about all these people is that they were all highly successful, pretty dynamic speakers. They all had beaucoup failures on their resume. They had started other businesses that hadn't worked out so well. Made mistakes, dip. But I think the striking thing to me was that they all were persistent as heck. They just keep going, keep coming back, keep doing different stuff, seeing if that'll work. If that doesn't work, they try something else. They do not give up. They are what we would call resilient. They keep going for the goal regardless of what their recent success or failures were. And honestly, I think that's one of the strongest lessons you can teach your ADHD children, is that they're gonna mess up. They're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna have, you can go with the la-di-da sort of thing that, there's no such thing as a failure. Well, okay, but sometimes things don't work out like you hoped they would, and the best approach to that is to figure out what went wrong and what you can learn from it and what you would do differently if you were in the situation again. But that's something that you have to teach people, because people are so much, and especially in the school systems the way they are now, it's all pass-fail. No, it's not pass-fail. It's super pass, super pass, not so good. But I do a lot of neuropsychological testing, which means we're testing for how your brain works and what your problem-solving ability is and all that stuff. And it's amazing how many people are afraid to make a mistake. They'd rather not do anything than to make a mistake. And I put that squarely on the way the school systems run. And I think we should do something about that, because the folks who've made the biggest changes in our civilizations are the ones who manage to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes and keep going. I mean, obvious one is like Thomas Edison. When he was trying to make a light bulb, over 1,000 failures before he finally got it right. And his comment is pretty much well known. It's like, well, now I know 1,000 ways not to do it. Perfect, beautiful. That's how you make progress. If you have to hit a home run the first time up, you will, generally speaking, not stay in the game very long. Ooh, was that a bad metaphor or what? But you know what I mean, or I think you know what I mean. You make progress when you keep focused on the goal, when you keep focused on what you're trying to get to. And the things that don't work out right, the failures, if you will, those are just learning experiences. Those are just things that you have figured out that don't work for you. So now you've got to figure out what's going to work. But you've eliminated that whole category of things. And that's the way you have to think about things. And that's the way entrepreneurs think. That's the way research scientists think. That's the way people who make a difference in all our lives think. The ones who don't make any changes are the ones who are always trying to be safe. The ones who are always worried about standing out for some reason, failing. That's I would hazard to say that our entertainment industry, TV, is like a veritable wasteland, because all you have are copycat shows, because the executives that run the business are more afraid of a bad showing than they are trying to get a good showing. As we know, or should know, you never get better that way. So I think the hope kind of thing that I kind of led this off with is that, sometimes when you're the parent of an ADHD child, it is easy to get really down. Oh, he's never even going to graduate from middle school. He's gonna be out on a street corner somewhere. He's gonna be a bum. He's gonna, it is really easy to get into that, because especially if you don't have ADHD, because it's like they're having troubles with things I never even thought about having troubles with. Understand completely. Know what you mean. But they have to be taught to keep trying, and they have to be taught to not give up, and they have to be taught to grab the lessons that they can learn out of experiences, not just beat themselves up. But I can't do anything right. You've got to get through that. Wait a minute. What happened? What was the situation? What did you do? Okay, what did you learn? What could you do better next time if you were in the same situation? What would you do differently? You have to approach it that way, because then sometime when you're in your dotage, your child will come rolling up in his limousine and say, hey Dad, hey Mom, how things going? Yeah, I just opened a new plant, a new facility, a new whatever. That's possible. That can happen. Okay? I just was at a conference with a whole bunch of guys that made that happen. And I think that's one of the things that keeps you going, I think, as an ADHD parent. Or, shoot, if you've got ADHD yourself, you see other people with the same condition, the same situation, and if they can be successful and do great things, and this is like, it's not like they all had great educations or great family backgrounds or any other advantages like that. No, a bunch of them were born very poor, but somehow they developed resilience. Somehow they developed the ability to keep plugging, to keep going, regardless of the situation, or regardless of what happened. They went for what they wanted to get, what they needed to get. And that's the big message. You can make mistakes, and if you've got ADHD, you're probably going to make more mistakes than the average. But those are learning experiences. Those are things that'll help you the next time you're in the same situation. Those are things that help you eliminate other possibilities, other options. It's not just original brilliance and correctness that leads to success. Matter of fact, most of the time it's not. Most of the time it's the person who plugs along and keeps going and does slightly different corrections to try to get to the goal, is the person who's successful. And also, it doesn't matter so much what you go into a situation or a business knowing. Okay, it's more, are you willing to learn how to do it? One of the people at this conference owns a company that makes power bars. He knew nothing about making power bars. He knew nothing about cooking, baking, nutrition, nothing. But he picked it up. He learned. And in this world now, you can be an expert on almost anything with one Google search. And while that's somewhat disheartening for those of us who did it the old-fashioned way, it works, and you can't say it doesn't. So, ADHD does not doom your child to a marginal existence. It does not doom your child to failure, to not being a success. It doesn't. Matter of fact, it may help them as long as they have the resilience, as long as they stay focused on, and they're good at staying focused on the things that really matter. Not so much the things that they're ordered to pay attention to, but the things that they know really matter. How they're going to get to where they want to go, or where do they want to go? Those kind of questions are the ones that they stick with, that they hang with. And those are the ones you, as an early child, you should start training them how to do that. How to, okay. I mean, everything from, oh, no, you didn't throw the curveball quite the way you wanted to, but what did you do, and what can we change to make it so you can throw a curveball? Or that's baseball for those of you who aren't necessarily sports aficionados. But it's everything is human beings are characterized by the ability to learn. Period. That's what we do best. We adapt, we adjust, we learn. That's what distinguishes us from every other species. That other species are totally driven by patterns, by habits. Oh, yeah, we're going to the watering hole because that's when we always go to the watering hole, and we always go to the same one. Even though the lions go there at the same time, and some of us may not make it back. Humans adapt and adjust. That's what distinguishes us. ADHDers also adapt and adjust. They a lot of times have more baggage than other kids. And that's your job, is to help them not develop so much baggage. They need to know that they can do something if they stick with it. They need to understand that. They need to understand there are procedures for evaluating situations and learning from them. And it's not all success or failure. Sometimes it's just plain freaking learning. Okay? Alrighty. I got a little pedantic on that, I guess, but that's it for today. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras. I am a clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist in private practice. I work with a lot of ADHD kids and adults. And we're trying, honestly, to make the world safe for ADHD. Because ADHDers are outside the box thinkers, and those are the people that are going to make big changes in our lives. So cherish your ADHD child. He or she may be the one that solves a big problem that's facing all of us. Okay, catch you next time.